So this is definitely not a video that I ever thought I would be filming. Some of you may have seen already from social media that Joe and I have broken up. I've been umming and ahhing about filming a video for YouTube, but one thing that has become so clear since announcing my breakup with Joe was how many people are going through almost an identical situation to me. And if I can speak candidly about my relationship and everything that happened, if it helps even just one other person feel less lonely during their breakup, then at least something positive will have come from this completely shit situation. I really wish that this was one of those videos where I could sit here and say that this was a joint decision and that we both decided that we were better off as friends. But unfortunately, it's not like that at all, and this was very much a one-sided decision on Joe's side. This wasn't my choice at all, and it was a shock to some extent because I just never thought that, I just thought I was gonna marry him. I thought he was my person. I loved him more than anything and would have done anything for him. I never thought that it would end, basically. Now, I don't know why when people talk about breakups online, it's like this embarrassment to admit that you were broken up with. I think that there's absolutely nothing wrong with owning it, and that's exactly what's happened to me. Unfortunately, it really was just as simple. I say simple, I mean it's shit, but as Joe just decided that we were too different and he wasn't sure he wanted to marry me. He just said that he wanted to be on his own, and unfortunately you have to respect someone's decision when they choose that, because I can't force someone to be with me. I'm not going to force anyone to be with me. Although being told that the person you love more than anything isn't sure they want to marry you is quite possibly one of the most painful things I've ever had to hear. You have to respect someone's decision because they're also a person with feelings, and that's just how they feel. I think one of the hardest things is that, you know, Joe's done nothing wrong, you know, there's been no foul play, you know, he's not a bad person, obviously. I mean, I thought I was going to marry the guy, so obviously I think the world of him, but it makes it harder when there's almost no reason for the breakup other than someone's just decided that you're not their person. I think for me, one of the hardest things was being told that we were too different after dating for 6 years, but being in each other's lives for almost 8 years. It did feel like a little bit of a kick in the stomach to have someone be with you for that long and only just make a decision that you're too different, because I like to think that I've always been the same person. You know, I've always been sassy and I've always loved the finer things in life, and you know, it didn't take a scientist to work out that Joe and I were very different people, but I like to think that our differences were what made us a team, you know, because we were different. But I guess that those differences maybe just became something he just didn't like. I don't know. I mean, you can drive yourself insane trying to work out why someone broke up with you. It's just one of those really unfair things in life, I guess, that some people will be lucky enough to never have to experience, but for those people that do, and for anyone watching this that is going through something like this where your person has decided that they don't want to be with you, I get it, and you're not alone, and it very much does happen. And trust me, from the stories that I've had from so many girls over the last 2 months, it happens to so many people. And that's why I want to share this, because your messages of support and sharing your stories have made me feel so much less alone and has helped me so much. So if this helps other people, as I say, then that's great in my opinion, you know? For me, I think the hardest thing about a one-sided breakup is you feel quite stupid for not for feeling so differently. You think to yourself, like, how can I have felt so sure about this person while they were feeling the complete opposite? And it just leaves you feeling like, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, because when someone says they're not sure they want to marry you, you can't help but wonder why you're not good enough, you know? And although you try so hard to not let yourself feel like that, it is hard, because you do just instantly think, like, what was wrong with me that the person I loved didn't pick me? And it is hard to deal with that. There's no easy way of dealing with it. As I said, it's someone else's decision, and you just have to accept it. I am not the sort of person that would ever sit here and say that our relationship was perfect, because my God, it was not. Like, we would argue, we would have our ups and downs, disagreements, and just, you know, everything in between. But we'd been together for almost, you know, as I said, I've known him for almost 8 years. We've been together for 6 years, and what relationship doesn't have those ups and downs? You know, I was incredibly stressed out with my job. I suffer, not so much now, but I went through some really bad stages of anxiety, possibly depression. I really realized I was suffering with, and made a real conscious effort to go and speak to people and sort it out, mainly because I didn't want it to affect my relationship. And I thought that, you know, we supported each other through that, and, you know, it would make us stronger. But unfortunately, I think that what I didn't realize is maybe it was pushing us further apart. As you get older and you grow with someone, life does happen. Life is hard. You know, stuff goes on in everyone's lives that changes them as a person, or, you know, there are good times and there are hard times. But I think the main thing is that everyone has flaws, you know, no one is perfect. And to look for perfection in a relationship is always gonna lead you down the wrong path, because you're never gonna find that. I think what makes a beautiful relationship is seeing someone's flaws, accepting them, because you understand that there are a million different things about that person that you love way more, and you are also so aware that nobody is perfect. I think this one of the saddest things for me, and when you've been in a long-term relationship, is I was just always the girl who, I mean, I never put any pressure on Joe when it came to proposing. You know, we would laugh about our wedding and we'd talk about it. It wasn't something that we didn't talk about. But, you know, I was never that sort of girl that was like, I need a ring, we need to get married. Like, I was just very respectful of the fact that, you know, I had my own business and he had his own business, and I knew that that was a priority in his life, and obviously my business is a priority in my life, and we just had very similar sort of like plans in that sense. And every time, I mean, God, over the last however many years, I would just get asked all the time, you know, when's Joe gonna propose? When's Joe gonna propose? And that's also so hard, because it does start to almost get embarrassing, I guess. But I would just always say, like, he's my person, I know I'm gonna marry him, it's gonna happen. And now, the saddest thing about that is I just feel stupid, because you just think, like, why didn't I, like, what did I not see? Why did I think that when it just wasn't the same for that other person? And looking back on it now, I mean, I think him having not proposed after being together for so long, and all of his friends getting married, you know, I've gone to every wedding under the sun, you know, all the engagements, all the marriages, babies, to not have that commitment. Looking back on it now, I probably should have seen something. I don't know. No relationship breakup, however big or small, is ever easy. I mean, I haven't broken up with someone in such a long time, but this is obviously one of the worst heartbreaks that I've had to go through, but I think what makes it harder is that when you get further into your life and you just have such an idea of what your future is going to look like, and when that gets taken away, that's just such a hard thing. I think for me, what's been even harder is that Joe's business was also my management, and Komodo was such a part of my life for so long, and I'm such a loyal person that I would never have ever left them as a management, but I've had to do that because for my own mental sanity, I've had to do it. And that's almost been hard as well, because it's like having 2 breakups, because I have now also lost all of the relationships I had with everyone there, which is equally as heartbreaking because they were all such a massive part of my life. It's just sad, like, but I get that like so many people will resonate with that when you do lose parts of yourself that you had with that person, and whether it's friendships or social circles, you know, because the friendships will always still be there, but it doesn't, you would be stupid to not think that, to not realize it will be different. Looking back on mine and Joe's relationship now, we were never good at communicating with each other. I mean, even the breakup was a bit of a shock. So I don't know, I guess, I feel like I'm telling everyone now who is in long-term relationships to be, you know, almost just as advice, I'm like, just communicate everything you feel, because you should feel like you can tell your partner, your boyfriend, your husband, your wife, anything. And you should be able to communicate your doubts and fears and your worries and your stresses, and that should be something that you should be communicating, because people aren't mind readers. So if you don't share those things with people, number one, it's so unhealthy, but you also can't work or make the relationship better. And I think that's the saddest part for me, is that I'm a big believer that you can make anything work if you both want it to. But unfortunately, in the situation like mine, I would have done anything to make it work, but Joe didn't feel the same way. I also think one of our massive failures was just made no time for each other. I mean, we were both so busy with our work, and I would often try and, you know, make things for just us two, but he was always very busy with his business, and I was always very supportive of that and tried to never, you know, be like, please pay more attention to me. And because running a business myself, you know, I know how hard it is, and I know how stressful and consuming, and it can take over your life because you just want it to do so well. But I think it's sad when I look back on it, because I think we just didn't, it's almost like it just died, you know? And I think in a really sad way, I saw it happening, and that's what makes me so sad. I actually read a quote the other day, and it said, if you can see a future without me and that doesn't break your heart, then we're not doing what I thought we were doing here. And really, if someone decides to walk away from you and you love them more than anything, you supported them, you were loyal, loving, respectful, encouraging, nurturing, you believed in them, you know, you would have done anything for them, and they still chose to leave rather than communicating their fears and doubts and worries and wanting to make the relationship work, you have to let go of the people who are okay with losing you, because what is meant for you will never leave you. And I am a big believer in that. I am such a believer in that, you know, what is meant for you will not go by you, and everything happens for a reason and all that stuff. I do believe it. And I thought that Joe was my future, but it clearly it just wasn't meant to be. It doesn't make it easier. It's funny, I'm 2 months down the line now, and some people are like, oh, you're 2 months, like it must be getting easier, like, but actually I think it just gets harder. I think it's because you just, the longer you go without seeing them or speaking to them or whatever it is, it's just that intense feeling of missing them, you know? We were in each other's lives for 8 years. So it feels like someone's died, and I'm sure it will get easier, I'm sure it will. I'm a strong person, I've always been a strong person, and I can deal with pretty much anything that's thrown at me, and I'm sure I'll deal with this as well. Yeah, some days are really shit. Some days are really shit. There's some real ups and downs. I just wanted to film this because I think having had Joe be part of my life for so long, I think you all deserve to at least hear why it ended. And yeah, I just really wanted anyone who's watching this to realise that you're not alone. But also to make sure you value yourself enough to know that if someone chooses to walk away from you, let them. And just know that the person who is meant for you is not going to leave you. I know a lot of you have been asking when I'll be back to YouTube and, you know, filming and things like that. And obviously I will be doing bits and bobs, but as you can imagine, I just really don't feel like filming right now. I just don't feel like myself, basically. And anyone who's going through a breakup will totally get that. You just don't feel like you. Anyway, lots of love to every single one of you who has sent me messages of support. It literally does not go unnoticed. I've read pretty much every single one of them, and it means more than you'll ever know. Like, you have been helping me so much. And also, I'm just sending my love to anyone who is going through what I'm going through, because it is really fucking hard. But for now, just make sure you are looking after yourselves. You know, don't let it consume you too much, because I mean, I did have some moments of that, but we've had wake-up calls from hair loss and things like that. But anyways, I love you all, and I will see you all very soon. Bye guys.